Thank you. My name is Nyakor, and I'm just going to tell you about my story, which is entitled My Journey of Hope. So let me start from the beginning. I was born in a small town called Wa in South Sudan, and I was born around 1:30 in the morning, and about 5:30 in the morning, my village was attacked, and my mom had just given birth to me, and I was about less than 4 hours old. My grandma had picked me up and ran one direction, and then my mother had ran another direction. Both of them thought that each other had been killed within the raid. We didn't meet up until 12 noon the next day outside the pyramid of a well-known prophet called Mundeng, and that's where I was named Nyakor, which means child of war. We traveled with community leaders and members through South Sudan, walking the distance from, saying, London to Leeds, settling in one place, having to get up and move to another place because rebels were coming and attacking and killing and raping women, children, killing men. And then we finally settled in Khartoum, in the internally displaced unit. And at the time, I think it was around 1989, England was allowing refugees to come to settle into England, and we came as refugees in England, and that's where my home has been ever since. I came and lived in London, and I was educated there from a very young age, and my father, who actually studied in England before we came over as refugees, he really installed in me about the reason why I was here. I was one of the lucky ones. He made it really important to me that education is the key to everything, developing yourself inside and out. He also said not to remember the past, not to forget your history. So through that, I worked hard at school. I was the first to graduate from university as a nurse, the eldest of 6 children, and then my siblings then followed later. And in 2010, I was lucky enough to meet another young South Sudanese lady who we then built a company called Tamam Global. And what we wanted to achieve from that was to rehabilitate and develop entrepreneurship within people living here to go back to South Sudan and try and build a better life there. South Sudan was the newest country in 2011. That's when we got our independence. And a lot of people have suffered through that, and I think that was a day of change. That was a day of hope for a lot of people, my mother, my father, my grandparents, my aunties that were living here. So I think when I went back in 2012, I felt like it was a missing piece in the puzzle. Even though London is my home, nothing felt complete until I went back home, and I felt like, now I know my purpose, and that was to embrace the reason why I was, lucky enough to survive what I survived. I was first scouted at the age of 14 as a model, and I've enjoyed doing that, traveling around the world, doing catwalk shows, doing photo shoots, being treated like a queen. But through that, meeting so many amazing people, learning about different cultures, and again, through that, I also got to do some acting work and still do my acting work now. So I was lucky enough to bump into a casting director who was looking for someone to do an online campaign called Go Free, which actually complemented my story because it was about a young girl who left Sudan, came to England, worked as a model, and now is free. And I did that for War Child Charity. I don't know if most of you have heard about what War Child Charity does. It helps people that who have been war children in war-torn countries. Through that, I set up loads of events with Connie. One of our first events was, of course, the independence of South Sudan, and then we also did a youth talk, where we had members from the community coming up on stage talking about the situation that is happening back in South Sudan and what can we do in the diaspora here, what can we do realistically, and how we can help the development and the rehabilitation of the people in South Sudan, as well as the diaspora all around the world, the South Sudanese diaspora there. And the community here were really amazing in getting together, bringing great ideas, and then through that we was able to get a very known refugee and a child soldier, Emmanuel Jao, and another singer called Dynamic, who also came down and did a concert for us. And that was amazing. A lot of people turned out for that and really got a lot of good impact from that. So, yeah. And I'm just going to end it there. And I hope you did get something from my story. And thank you so much for having me. And thank you. Thank you.